John Fredericks, America's Godzilla of Truth. He's popular and proficient in picking politics with prophetic precision. And now J. Fred's picking sports. Are y'all ready for this? All across the airwaves and streams of the John Fredericks Media Network, John, Jack, and Nate, three guys that are pretty wise when it comes to picking winners. Football, basketball, baseball, soccer, golf, UFC battles, you name it. When the game is on your mind and money's on the line, Godzilla Wins is your guide to picking winners. Before you make that play, hear what J. Fred has to say. Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
Oh yeah, for entertainment purposes only.
Good morning and welcome to the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show. I'm your host, Jack Fredericks, alongside my father, the Godzilla of Truth, John Fredericks, senior contributor and editor for GodzillaWins.com, Nate Perry, and senior contributor to GodzillaWins.com, Mitch Rogers. Happy to be here, excited for the show. Got a lot of awesome topics to talk about. Going to start off with a little Olympics, doing some recap of the week ahead or the week behind us with the Olympics, some stuff that we really enjoyed watching. Then we're going to do a ton of baseball, talk a little Pirates baseball, maybe a little O's baseball, do some trade deadline stuff because some of these teams really crushed the trade deadline. We'll talk a little Jazz Chisholm, and then some teams did not crush the trade deadline. That would be my dad's and our Houston Astros that really overpaid for a really bad starting pitcher. So we'll talk a whole bunch of baseball. Then in that top of that hour, don't go anywhere because remember, this show is 2 hours long, 9 to 11. Top of the hour, we're going to do a ton of college football because it's August now. So we're going to do some college football, just some future stuff, tell you about the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, some of those futures bets that you might want to get in. Hey, listen, go to GodzillaWins.com for all of your sports prediction and analysis. You can check out my father's daily picks on the daily picks page. He's always on fire, scorching hot. And you can read all of our articles on different topics. One of the reasons we're doing all this college football stuff is because Dan Angel, who can't join us today on the show, but I'm sure he's listening, wrote an incredible series of futures picks for pretty much every conference, even down, Nate, to the FCS. So if you want to get in some FCS action, you can go on to GodzillaWins.com. And Dan is an FCS guy for sure. He makes a lot of money doing the FCS, so make sure you are able to get all the insight there. Now, GodzillaWins.com and all of its subsidiaries are for entertainment purposes only. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537 in Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Nebraska, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Call 800-327-5050. Visit gamblinghelpline-ma.org. In Massachusetts, call 877-GOPEN-Y. Text HOPEN-Y to New York, 467-369. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-522-4700. Kansas, New Hampshire, 888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org in Connecticut, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Visit opgr.org in Oregon. Okay, super excited to have everybody here on the show. Yet another edition of the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show, episode number 114. We are about 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks away from our 2-year anniversary, I believe. Happened sometime in August, back when Dad hosted the show. I don't even know if he recorded it back then, but we would go live on the radio, and none of us had any recording equipment or any
calling
idea
in on
how
our
to
phones.
do it. Yeah, it would just be me and Nate calling in on the phone. I didn't even have any cell service, so I'd have to get in my car, drive to a public park where I got cell service, and sit on the phone for an hour while we talked college football lines and stuff like that, which was something that I hope I never have to return to, if only because it looks weird to just be sitting in your car at a public park on the phone for an hour on a Saturday morning, like at 6 a.m. So I got a lot of strange looks back then, and this is a pretty small community, so I definitely don't want to do that again.
I picture you on a dusty payphone and people in line waiting for you to get off. You're like, no,
yeah,
20 more minutes.
Feeding the quarters into it.
Just trying to find more change. We got 2 more minutes on the show.
While people are banging on the payphone. That's pretty much what happened. I did get a lot of weird looks, but that was back in the day, and now we're all here on a recording line. And
how long has it been? You said 2 years.
2 years.
Coming up on 2 years, yeah.
I think we had like a false start like 3 years ago, I think.
I don't remember, but
Months.
this is why our whole company is so successful. When you trace anything back, the beginnings are so humble, with no money, no equipment, nothing. I mean, I started this radio station on one obscure station, which we now own, AM 1650 in Norfolk, where I had to buy the time, and struggled to do that. I think I had 600 listeners, and there was complaining about something, and so now we actually own that station. But you trace almost anything back we've did, it's got very humble beginnings. That's why we're different.
Yeah, I remember I've told this story before, but it bears repeating. Then we'll get to the sports news. I remember back, Dad, when you were starting your politics show, and you would quote unquote open up the line to callers, and then you'd text me and ask me if I'd call in and like from Colonial Beach or something. So I'd have to call in and it'd be like, oh, we got a caller. Someone's listening to the show. Who's calling in? I'd be like, oh, it's Bob from Colonial Beach. Oh, Bob, what do you think of Obamacare?
You're switching your accents up.
Yeah, because you had to get somebody to call in to get others to call in, and nobody. I mean, I had a handful of listeners back then. It was at the end of the dial, 1650 in Norfolk. I mean, nobody tuned that thing in. But that's what you got to do.
End of the dial.
The end of the dial. Now,
right
a lot of the stations, we have two stations that are now at the end of the dial, 1650 in Norfolk, which we bought, and then 1690 in Atlanta. But we figured out with those how to make those a destination station, because nobody's flipping and finds it because you never go down there. But we made those work. And our station 1690 in Atlanta is a beast. And one of the great things about it is it's 10,000 watts right in the middle of Atlanta. But the best thing about it is there's no other stations by it, so we get no interference. So we put the right equipment in that thing goes all the way out to Cumming, and it goes all the way down to Peachtree City. It's probably one of the best stations we have. So it just depends. You understand the business, you kind of figure it out. And so those of you on 1690 right now, thank you for being such a loyal listener. Thank you.
And those AM stations, if they don't power down when the sun goes down, they broadcast all the way across the nation. It's pretty crazy.
Well, they all have to go down, but it depends on how much.
Yeah.
And but the biggest thing we got going right now is to save the business, not to get into legislation, but the AM radio in every car bill, which we've got 251 votes in the House. This is a bipartisan bill, because a lot of people in rural America, this is all they have. This is the way they communicate, is through AM radio. We got 251 votes in the House, bipartisan. Ted Cruz the other day told me we had 61 votes in the Senate, so it's bulletproof there. But it's just stuck because the car lobby has spent $14 million trying to bottle this thing up because they don't want to do it. And so, you get into these bills and you really understand how the swamp works, And so Schumer's got it bottled up in the Senate because he's getting money from the car people. One of our Republicans has got it bottled up in his committee, and hopefully it'll get out in September. We'll get this thing passed. Otherwise, it's got to go. They have to have a redo in January. But when you have a bill that affects your business and affects your industry, and then you start following it, you really get to understand how Washington works. And it's just like a whole scum bucket. It's all about money, lobbyists, who's got what. And one guy can hold it up in a committee. So, I mean, it's just, it is what it is. Hopefully it'll get out in September.
What's the car lobby's argument? What do they want?
Just that, here's what they've done. Well, they don't want to have to be forced to put AM radio in cars, right? They don't want to do it. So they're basically saying, oh, well, we'll do it voluntarily. Well, they're not, because when they were doing it voluntarily, Ford and them stopped it. And then people on our side just had a boycott of Ford. They got scared. They put it back in. But now we got a lot of the foreign cars that are made here don't want to do it. So the lobbies don't want the government telling them what to do. And so I've even got some people on my side, on the right, who are saying, well, like I had a Victoria Sparks on the other day from Indiana. Well, John, I don't like government getting involved, and what, government shouldn't be making that decision. I'm like, really? Do you wear a seat belt? Do you have a child seat in your car? You do? For your granddaughter? Guess what? You know why you have that child seat in there and you have that seatbelt? Because the government mandated it. You go back to when I was a kid, there were no seatbelts. Smoking in the car, there were no child seats. You dumped the kid
Smoking
in the
in the
back.
car.
I mean, there wasn't any of that. You guys remember? Well, you guys are too young. Ask your parents. They didn't have seatbelts or car seats for kids. Dumped them in the back of the car, and then they, your grandmother would shut the windows on a cold day and smoke a pack of cigarettes while I'm in the back. That's what everybody did. They cut that out. So I'm like,
halcyon days of car travel.
So, do you not want to wear a seatbelt? So that's just a BS argument. But hopefully it'll get out because it's an important, and it's just not for our business. AM radio is a critical communication tool for people in rural areas that don't have access to everything. And if things go south, FM doesn't work. Internet goes out. Cell phone towers go out. You got one method of communication, AM radio. People don't understand how powerful this is.
That's where I cut my teeth. AM 1200 WAGE in Leesburg. I'm with you.
There you go.
I'm in your line. Let's go.
So, two things. One, Dad, I think the title of your memoir should be the end of the dial. I think that'd be a good title.
I like that.
There. Yeah, the end of the dial. Number two, I think we just got a little window into your childhood. I'm not sure everybody's childhood was their grandma or mom rolling up all the windows and smoking a pack of Virginia Slims in the car. I think that was just just Dolly.
You know what she smoked? She smoked unfiltered Lucky Strikes.
Yeah, that is a
unfiltered Lucky
woman.
Strikes. These are probably the worst cigarettes you could probably smoke. I mean, the nicotine and the cancer just went straight into your lungs.
Rolled up
and
in
those
your
things,
white sleeve.
I mean, you would light those things up, and it would be like Cough City. I mean, it was those Lucky Strikes, not filtered. I mean, that was like pure ass tobacco right there.
Yeah, I 100% believe that she rolled up all the windows in New Jersey cold, and you were in the back being like, "Can we roll down a window?" And she was like, "No,
no, it's too cold."
Yeah, I can see that. Well, that wasn't exactly the open that I was planning for, but I am going to still talk a little. We're going to talk a little Olympics, and that's okay. We have to do an ad in a minute, but I'll do mine, and then we'll do some Olympics. We got a lot of baseball to cover, but we can kind of scrap a couple topics and go pretty much anywhere. I want to start with the Olympics because I think it's on everybody's mind, and I really want to talk a little bit about Simone Biles. Specifically her story, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with because she's been around the Olympics for such a long time. Of course, Simone Biles is now, I think, the most decorated gymnast as far as medals go. She was incredible in the team event, just looked amazing as always. One of, I think, the best, just like we were talking a couple weeks ago about athletes, and Dad was making that point of like, if we're just talking not the most accomplished athletes, but just the best pure athlete. I mean, Simone, you could make a case that Simone Biles is maybe the best pure athlete we've ever seen. I mean, it's pretty incredible to watch her do what she can do in the gym. And to couple that with the fact that her story, having been raised in foster care for a number of years when she was very young, and eventually adopted by her grandfather, I believed. Her mother was a drug addict and was always kind of losing her children, and I don't think she knows her father at all. So I'm almost positive it's her grandfather who adopted her and a couple other of the children when she was maybe 8 or 9. But she spent a lot of that that early time in foster care, and it's pretty inspiring just to read about it or think about it if you haven't before. I mean, I'm a teacher. I've been for a long time, and I could tell you I've been around students who have been in the foster care system, students with unstable homes, students with parents who struggle with substance abuse and all sorts of different things. And the amount of the ways in which they have to overcome difficulties, the obstacles they have to face every day is pretty. It's hard to even quantify unless you know these kids and what they have to go through. I've taught many kids who are in foster care. I've taught students whose parents are in jail for life and whose parents were murdered, or parents who parents who murdered each other, stuff like that, and they're stuck in a system where they were finally adopted by other foster parents, things like that. And it's incredible to see how hard these kids work, and it's inspiring to see how much they can overcome. Someone like myself, I think, well, if I were in that situation, there's no way I would have been able to overcome that. So, I think it just bears sort of repeating whenever Simone Biles is on television, how much she's been able to overcome in her life to, become basically the most important gymnast I think we've probably ever seen. So, shout out to Simone Biles. And, next time you're watching her and if you don't know that story, you can look it up. It's all over the news because it's been covered for many, many years, and she's been in the Olympics for many years. So I'd encourage you to read about her if you have not. I do want to get to some other Olympic topics. Then we'll get to some baseball. I know Nate wants to talk about Katie Ledecky.
When are we doing golf picks?
We'll do golf picks at the end.
Did you tell everybody on the show that Nate has picked 4 golf winners in 4 consecutive weeks?
No, my dad tells me because he follows it, and he's like, "Hey, Nate's on a roll with John in golf."
10-1. let me just frame this: 10-1 winner, 10-1 winner, 10-1 winner, 18-1 winner. Yeah. I've never bet golf in my life. When I first put the first bet in for 10-1 to $25,000, I didn't know the guy's name. I couldn't find it. Nate had to tell me where to go on DraftKings, and then 10-1, 10-1, 10-1, and 18-1. If I bet $25 on the 10-1 shot, and then just took all the money and keep betting him for 4 weeks, I'd be up $420,000.
That's right.
Yeah, you would.
Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. The thing about radio shows, Dad, is that you have to schedule time to talk about different topics.
I just want to get everybody.
Right now, we're talking about the Olympics.
I want to get everybody locked in. I don't care if it's 10:57. You got to wait for Nate's golf picks, baby.
That's what I'm saying. So we're going to tease that at the very end. We're not going to give out Nate's golf picks until the very end because everybody should be playing these picks. 4 in a row in golf is pretty incredible. Like I said last week, Nate wasn't on the show, but we did a golf radio shows. We used to do a golf podcast, and Nate could not pick any winners, and so I just closed the podcast because I was like, this guy sucks at picking golf, and that was the whole point. So no more podcasts, and now all of a sudden he's on fire. I think we found his niche, which is to pick the winner on Saturday before the last 2 rounds. That's where he's
he's in Texas, which doesn't allow online gambling, so he can't even bet.
Yes,
this here
coincides with me finally not having access to gambling. Yeah.
This is the irony of it. He can't make his own bets. I mean, it's absolutely hilarious. I had to text him on Sunday. He said, "Your guy's up by a stroke with like 3 holes to go. You're looking good." And I'm like, how do I watch it? Like, I've never watched golf. He's like, ABC. I'm like, so I have to go to Ann, like, how do we get ABC? So it was like a panic on Sunday trying to find. I don't watch it. I couldn't even find it. Finally, we found it at the end, and the guy was being interviewed with his family. I'm like, hey, I think we won. I mean, that's how illiterate in golf I am.
Yeah, well, you're making money now. And one of the reasons, Dad, that Nate has been so successful with this is because he takes Healthy Cells REM sleep, which helps him get a good night's sleep so that he can wake up every Saturday and pick a golf winner. So one of the things I love about Healthy Cells REM sleep is that it really does allow you to get in that deep sleep, that third REM sleep. As John says, you got to be prepared for the subconscious, the dreams, the id, that it will come out because you'll be so dead asleep that you'll have some pretty weird dreams. I took it last night and I actually did have a pretty weird dream. Nikola Jokic was in my dream for some reason, so it was weird. But that's what you get with Healthy Cells. So what you need to do is go to www.healthycell.com, www.healthycell.com. Go find the REM sleep. Now they have tons of products, and we're going to talk about more of them in the show because we love Healthy Cell. But we love the REM sleep. We love to talk about it all the time. And you use that promo code Godzilla in the checkout. Now you have to wait until you get to the card and you're about to pay, and you'll see the discount code option there, and you just type in Godzilla, just like the Godzilla of Truth or Godzilla Wins. You type in Godzilla, get you 20% off, which is a pretty incredible deal. And this is a pretty, in my opinion, a great sleep supplement. So if you have trouble sleeping, you have trouble getting to sleep, you get in bed at 10, but you don't get to sleep till midnight, maybe 1 a.m., or you wake up wide awake at 3 a.m. when you got to pee and you can't get back to sleep. Well, I encourage you to try Healthy Cells REM sleep because this stuff really does work. It's an incredible product, and we love to promote it because we all take it. So go to healthycell.com. That's healthycell.com, promo code Godzilla. get you 20% off on the REM sleep. Okay, talking Olympics a little bit more. We'll push baseball back. We got plenty of time to talk baseball. Nate, I know you want to speak about a little bit about Katie Ledecky and some of the stuff you've been seeing with her in the Olympics. Then we'll get to Mitch.
Yeah, I mean, so when we were doing the sports, list, whatever that was, a couple of weeks ago, and I think all of us were kind of like, Katie Ledecky's maybe like dominant, but I'm not sure if she should be this high on the list. We were sort of having some conversations like that, and now I'm watching the Olympics, and Katie Ledecky absolutely should have been ranked high on that list of best athletes of this century. I mean, what she does in the 1500, it's a new event. Granted, this is only the second Olympics where it's been done, but the 1500 free, which she dominates, is something special. Like, to put this in context, the 20 fastest times in the women's 1500 freestyle have all been swam by one person, Katie Ledecky. She had done 19 of the fastest 19 times. When she won the 1500 a couple of days ago, it was 20 of the fastest 20 times. Anybody's fastest race is not as good as her 20th best race in the 1500. That's incredible. That is historic. And that's every time she swims it, she is secretariat at the Belmont. You can't see anyone else in the frame. It's just her. There's nobody even close. It's that iconic shot of secretariat making the turn for the home stretch and everyone else is still kind of rounding the corner. It's her just lapping the field in the 1500, and it's incredible to watch that sort of dominance. And that's what the Olympics are fun. Yeah,
that is why the Olympics are fun. That 1500 race, if you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. I'm sure, Mitch, that you caught it too, because, I mean, she laps everybody. So she finishes, and then she has to wait for everybody else to finish top 20 times, etc. I think this one was her 8th best finish in this particular event. So it's not like it was even in the top 5, and she lapped everybody. Nobody else could keep up. I love those longer swimming events. Like the shorter ones, of course, are incredible for it feels like a horse race in many ways where, maybe you go 200, 400 meters and you're just like, oh my God, they get started, it's almost over. And they're just booking it. But the long ones are crazy because people just run out of gas. So some of those guys are just way behind. And she was in the lead the entire time, I believe. She gets out to a start.
She just wired it.
Builds her lead continually. So it's pretty incredible. And that swimming stuff is a lot of fun. Mitch, what are you watching the Olympics?
Well, the Olympics has been great from my perspective this year. It's taken on those memories I had when I was a kid. So it's more of a family perspective. So I have 9 and 6-year-old daughters. They play soccer, gymnastics, and they swim, and all 3 things are going on at the same time. So I've been trying not to watch during the day and wait for the prime time because the family unit's been watching it. But watching Ledecky, we were talking about it as well because my daughters swim now. And my daughter brought up a good point. She goes, it's got to be tough when she can't look to the left or right and have anyone next to her to have a marker to I don't even know how she would even be able to beat her world record because she doesn't know. She might have a timer in there, but after the 20th minute of swimming, she can't know if she's on her world record pace. But yeah, that's exhausting to watch too. I've tried to incorporate a little swimming. I did 50 meters the other day. I thought I was going to die. And then 1,500 meters is nuts. But I've liked this Olympics from just from an entertainment broadcast perspective. We have you had the men's gymnastics team perform well, medal for the first time. You have Simone Biles. You have the French kid Marchand in the swim. So you have the star for the home team that is just a humble, awesome kid. My daughter calls him the cute kid. She's just into swimmers now and abs. So it's 9 years old. Watch out. But the entire spectacle is just I've loved every moment of it. Even the opening ceremony, you can get into the politics or not. I don't the one scene didn't ruin it all for me. It was just a fun pageantry to get this thing started. So I've just really been into it. But I do digress and take umbrage with something you said at the beginning, like Simone Biles being the best athlete. I mean, did you not see the Turkish air pistol shooter? With nothing, just pop, 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 pop? That's your best athlete. And that has to be some assassin from the special forces of Turkey. That's been the best story so far.
Yeah, you're right about that. I'm not I'm not someone who really like shoots a lot of guns, I guess, but I mean, Nate, you do that sometimes. I can't imagine like not having any eyewear, no headgear, and just firing off a pistol.
And like jeans. You have like Jordache jeans on, just pow.
So
Yeah, they just like handed him the jersey. He's like, I guess I'll just put this on, I guess. And then just walked out there, grabbed the gun, and started shooting.
He begrudgingly put in the ear pods. He didn't even want to. He's like, nah.
Did he medal?
Yeah, silver.
Oh, great. About to say,
51 years old, and he just goes out there with a steady hand and no support.
There's the one where he hits the bullseye and where he gets the silver medal is the most impressive. The other guy has like all of his lenses on.
Yeah, they basically have like a scope on their glasses, and then this guy's just out there, just both eyes wide open, just leveling a pistol. And
it's like if John Wick was real.
Yeah.
It was like if John Wick went to the Olympics, and you were like, "Can you just go ahead and tag these really quick?" Yeah.
That guy. Remember when he hits the telephone pole with the pistol? Like that's not real. Nobody can do that. Well, one man can.
Yeah, this Turkish guy. Well, let's but we'll have to put him in our 100 greatest athletes talk then. This guy, no protective gear, just firing off his pistol and medaling in silver. Well, look, the Olympics have been a lot of fun. I mean, I've been doing the swimming, been doing the gymnastics, the tennis. I love watching tennis, so that's been fun. Alcaraz and Djokovic are still dominating in that event, and so all sorts of fun stuff going on. Got the basketball, got the 3-on-3 for the women's, all sorts of good stuff. And shout out to Peacock. Like killed it. I was not at all confident that Peacock was going to be able to give me the type of viewing experience that I thought the Olympics deserved. But they crushed it. I mean, like the little multi-view with the 4 panels, which I know like that feels like everybody does that now, but I mean, I still appreciate it when you have it. They've done a great job with the coverage. You get the live coverage. They'll replay everything at night if you have to work. And it's, it's like $8. So I'm often frustrated by the fact that we have to have every single streaming subscription in order to watch sports now. But shout out to Peacock because they've done a really good job with the Olympics.
Yeah, the Gold Zone, like their equivalent of like Red Zone coverage.
Yeah,
incredible in the mornings. I'm just like, really they're just moving around. You get to see every medal, every like high intensity moment. It's been awesome to watch.
Are you old enough to remember the flop of the triple cast when they tried to put them on pay-per-view in like the late 90s?
No.
So it's nice that NBC finally gets this one right. Yeah. So in like the late 90s or the early 2000s, they tried to do a triple cast, and so you would order it like you would order your old UFC fights on like the grainy pay-per-view channels, and nobody did it. It was a flop. So, but yeah, the Peacock coverage has been great.
It really has. Okay, we're going to switch a little bit, some topics here, talk a little baseball in just a minute. But before we do that, I got to talk to you about Get Native Path's krill oil, which has been one of my favorite products of late. There, Dad's got it right there. He's got the krill oil. Mine's in the bathroom, so I'm not going to go grab it. But Dad's got the bottle to show you. So listen, have you heard about or read about the possible side effects from taking ibuprofen? And to top it all off, ibuprofen doesn't even get to the main cause of your pain and swelling problems. It's only temporary pain relief, and it's only masking the true problem, which is inflammation. This is not a solution for your pain. Right now, you can go to getnativepath.com/GodzillaWins. That's GetNativePath, getnativepath.com/GodzillaWins. That's the whole moniker, the whole brand name, GodzillaWins. So once you hit that the backslash there and you go to Godzilla Wins, it'll give you the landing page. It'll give you a whole bunch of information on krill oil. I think that's really important for those people who want to read about it. And if you just scroll a little bit, a window will pop up and you can claim your offer that way. So you can learn more and see your special offer there. That's why researchers are saying to add this Antarctic super nutrient to your diet. Dad can hold up that bottle again because he's been taking it now. He loves those omega-3 fatty acids, and that's what we're talking about.
I just started taking it this week. Ann told me to take it. Of course, I heard your ad, and then so I went and bought it. And then so Ann told me to buy it. So she's been taking it for a couple months. So I just started taking it. But listen, I mean, all the stuff I take, all of it, I just feel better. And so this stuff, there's certain nutrients from the fish oil that you need that you're just not going to get. But like I'm back to doing my push-ups. My arm was hurting, and so that's why I started taking these. Like maybe that's going to help because I have to take a lot of a leave or something. Now I'm back to that. So I'm gonna try these, but I just started taking it 3 days ago.
Yeah, and those omega-3 fatty acids are sourced from wild-caught krill. This krill oil is pure, effective, and easily absorbed by the body, and no fishy taste. The omega-3 content from krill oil has been shown to support healthy blood pressure, circulation, brain health, as well as reduce inflammation, swelling, and joint pain. Better yet, for a limited time, you can grab Native Path Antarctic krill oil for as low as $19 a bottle with free shipping. And plus a free gift, which you got to get the frother. They got a frother that's really incredible. It can froth up your coffee for you. So just go to getnativepath.com, GetNativePath.com/Godzilla Wins, GODZILLAWINS right now to get your special offer for being our listener. We love the krill oil. It's just omega-3s. I mean, that's what we're talking about. If you don't eat a lot of fish, you need some of those omega-3 fatty acids. So make sure you get some krill oil because $19 a bottle, you can't beat that, especially when you can claim your free gift, the frother. Okay, we're going to do some baseball. Mitch, we're going to start with the Pirates because they faced off against the Astros over the right before the weekend. I think the series ended last night, and they took 2 out of 3 there from the big bad Astros, who I believe now are in first place and would be the 3rd seed if the playoffs started today. So, Mitch, I just want to get your, as Pirates Nation, just your response here. We got a lot of Astros fans. Then we'll give Dad. It'll be like a debate. We'll give Dad 30 seconds to respond.
No, that was a fun series. So the Pirates have been hovering around 500, entered the trade deadline into the All-Star break, 1 game over, with Skeens kind of taking over MLB for a few days. The Pirates made some good trade deadline moves, which happened on the third, the rubber match of the Astros series. But that Astros series was awesome. So they were on a road trip. And right now the Pirates just need to desperately just win series. Win 2 out of 3, and they pulled off a couple crazy ones in Houston. That Houston lineup is pretty formidable, and it was nice to see them have a couple people just like Michael A. Taylor out of who the hell, he can't even hit a home run. He hits 2 in the series back-to-back days, sparks the comeback. So, but I'm happy what the Pirates did. So they have all this momentum. They have 2 of the best pitchers in baseball. 3 of Jared Jones comes back and returns to form, and they actually went out and they made some moves where they didn't have to go into their farm system for them. So they got Brian De La Cruz and they got Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who is an amazing utility player, and it just really rounds out their lineup. So I'm excited to see what they do from here on out because. You're not going to want to face this Pirates team if they can get into a series, and they may have provided just enough pop there. But when you go look at all these trade deadline moves, there's a lot of teams that got better, and specifically like the Cardinals in their division, may have been the team that can come and go catch the Brewers. But yeah, so I'm excited about it. Houston, they look great, but I don't know what they did at the trade deadline. Looks like they went for a struggling pitcher and gave up a lot for him.
Yeah, Dad. Then we'll get to Nate here. So Astros dropped 2 out of 3 to Pittsburgh. They beat the Rays last night, so they got, I think, 2 more against the Rays. But I mean, I want to do a lot of trade deadline reaction because there's a lot to get to. There's the Mariners who seem to really crush it. There's the Yankees who did really well. There's the Rays and the
Padres.
The Padres, the Rays and the Marlins sold off a whole bunch of teams or a whole bunch of players. Vlad Guerrero didn't get moved, which was kind of surprising. But the Astros, who are now tied for first with the Mariners, who were very aggressive. The Astros sold 3 major pieces, 1 or 2 of which could really have factored into the future for a pitcher with an ERA over 6. I mean, I understand that injuries are awful for the Astros right now, but Dad, this has got to be. I mean, that move was pretty frustrating for anyone who's rooting for the Astros to win the division. I mean, what are you doing?
Well, let's unpack this. First, let's get to the Pirates series. And I'm going to give them a shout out for winning 2 out of 3, especially the first game. We go in the 8th inning. We got a one-run lead. Presley and Hader, this is supposed to be lights out. This is why we paid them all this money. You guys, tied in the 8th, and then, somebody Michael Taylor's got like 2 homers. It's a 3-run homer off Hader, dead center field. So that's like a clown show for them. But the thing about nobody's going to want to face the Pirates in this first, what is it, best out of 5? Nobody's going to want to face this team. You got to face Skeens. You got to face Mitch Keller right out of the bat. And, you know, you look at the lineup and there's a bunch of 190 hitters, 220 hitters. And you're like, you know, it's just like Punch and Judy's. But this is just a relentless team. I mean, they're relentless. I mean, I bet I bet the D-backs last night with one of the hottest pitchers in the NFL, Fat, and they got a 5-0 lead in the first inning. I'm like, okay, chalk that win up. Then I see a score. It's like 8-8. Like, what the hell's going on? So Diamondbacks ended up beating them last night, or 7-7 or something. But the Pirates are tough, and nobody's going to want to face them early. Look, as far as the Astros are concerned, they waited too long. And part of what the waiting is to see how Verlander was going to do, see how Garcia was going to do. Nobody knows if Verlander's ever coming back. McCullers, I don't think, is ever coming back. Garcia, now he had a setback. So they waited and waited to see if they would get one of these starters back. When it didn't look promising, it was the final 2 days. Their back was against the wall, and they had to do something, because you're not going to win the division or win a playoff series with 3 pitchers, 2 of whom were pitching more innings than they've ever pitched. They had to get a starter. They got Kikuchi. Now, you know, he starts off yesterday. Nobody on our side liked the trade except me, because I want to win now. I want to win now because I'm afraid Bregman leaves. I don't know who's going to leave. I want to win now. You needed a pitcher. He was all that was available. We got absolutely skewered by Toronto. They got 3 of our players, and 2 pitches last night. He's down 2-zip, double homer. I'm like, okay, well, this is why the guy's ERA is 6. But then he gets 8 strikeouts in a row, strikes out 11 in the game. You could see on TV he's got great stuff. I could see why the Astros got him. Maybe they can help him. So it was a big win last night for them. So right now the trade looks okay. We'll see what happens down the stretch. But some of these trades, I mean, I just got to hand it to the Rays. I mean, they were sellers. They got a lot of good young players. Miami got a lot of good young players. And once again, A.J. Preller on the Padres, I mean, he has no farm team. Basically, the Padres farm team is to trade to get players before the deadline. I mean, that's their whole system. But here's the thing. That's what they do. Once you commit to a thing, do it. And this is why I got to hand this to A.J. Preller. They look at their farm system as a mechanism to trade for players at deadline to win divisions. That's the way they look at it, and he's stuck with that. Do I think it's crazy? Yes, but that's their model. Nobody's ever done it before, and until the Padres, win consistently, it's going to be criticized. But I mean, he got 2 great relievers. Seattle with Arenzo Ronan, a couple other things. Look, this is going to be tough going down the stretch. I think the biggest winner was the Yankees getting the second baseman from Miami. That was like a major acquisition for them. And the Orioles helped themselves. So a lot of teams in the AL really got better. Cardinals got better. I don't know why the Astros didn't get Jack Flaherty. Like, how do we not get him? But, they just waited. And when you wait, sometimes you win. And when you wait, sometimes you lose.
I mean, the biggest thing for me with the Astros wasn't that they, got Kikuchi. It was that they just ignored this black hole at first base in terms of offensive production, that they just do, they jettison Abreu. That was, a disaster. And then they just did nothing to address it at the trade deadline. They didn't go after a single hitter to try and fill that hole.
Well, they didn't have anybody. I mean, they could only get one player. You can't go forward without a starter. They needed a starter. They also DFA'd Montero. So, think what they did. They DFA'd a guy with a $58 million contract, second year, got rid of him. DFA'd a guy with a $35 million contract in his second year. Montero, got rid of him. So they've, there's like, I don't know what the money is after 2, but there's like $60 million tied up that they could have signed Bregman with. So it's like Crane, I don't know what the hell he's doing in there. They got Jeff Bagwell in his ear, but some of these deals they made have been catastrophic. And now he's going to whine about, oh, I can't sign Bregman. Meantime, you're packing the house every day. A beer is $7. Hey, open your damn wallet. I don't care about the luxury tax. Sign Bregman, or all Astros world's going to be pissed. But these guys are just greedy. So I'm no longer a Crane fan. Spend the money or shut up and get out of my sight.
Well,
I'll bring Amy in.
You're listening to, yeah, right. There you go. You're listening to the Godzilla Win Saturday Pick Show here. We're talking MLB trade deadline. I'll put a pin in the Astros, and then we can move on to some of the other deals. I think, like Dad was saying earlier, if you're going to commit to it, then commit to it. If you're going to overpay for one guy, overpay for the rest. You're already in talks with the Blue Jays. They wanted to move Vlad Guerrero. They didn't, but they would have. So overpay for two of them. Like, offer all your farm system and get yourself a first baseman who can produce. You're already trading with the Blue Jays there. I don't really see why you don't just over commit even more and try to address a glaring hole, Nate.
And that's the thing. Your window is now. Like, the window isn't in the future for the Astros. It's right now.
Well, they're going to have to take advantage of that loophole too, right? In August, they'll do that waiver dump, which they did last year, and they didn't make any rules against it. So you're going to see that again this year. And you wonder, with the way these general managers talk and the owners talk, if there's little inside collusion on knowing who's going to be out there. Maybe there's a first baseman or a utility player that's going to be dumped in August. But they're going to have to be in that market.
You're right about that. The Astros have been pretty successful with the waiver wire, the way the rules are now, Mitch. That's a really good point. Let's
explain those rules, Mitch.
Yeah. So the way it's explained to me is in last year. So last year was the first year with where they tried to make the trade deadline the kind of the final. You couldn't do much more. Like in years past, you could do a lot of moves before the playoffs or in September. Now they can dump them and they can do waiver dumps. They can just basically drop players and you're allowed to pick them up. And there was a lot of they wanted to make the rule change in the winter meetings, but they didn't get to it. So I think it's going to be changed, but I think it is a loophole. Like I honestly believe something's going to happen next year where they don't allow it to be. But last year, I forget who took advantage of it. One team took advantage of it and added two players to their roster, and it looked like it was collusion. So who knows? But yeah, so they can dump players and you can just pick them up. So salary dumps, especially for teams that try for the next 2 weeks and then realize they're out of it, and then they'll try to do salary dumps.
Yeah, and in those dumps, you can talk to, like talking about collusion, you can talk to another GM and say, hey, we're going to dump this person, you dump this person, pick them back up, basically a trade, just a different way to do it. So sort of interesting how that works. Let's talk a little bit about the Yankees, Dad. I know you mentioned Jazz Chisholm. I mean, to me, it seems like some major winners trade deadline. Some major winners would be the Yankees, the Padres, the Cardinals, and then maybe the Rays and the Marlins. So we'll start with Mitch, actually, and then we'll go to Dad. I know, Mitch, you talked about the Cardinals as being a major winner. So let's stick with them, and then we'll go up to Dad with the Yankees. What about the Cardinals makes you now worried as a Pirates fan?
Well, I mean, because this is what they always do. They've got they're negative 28. Their run differential is 28, right? And you're like, come on, and they always add, and it doesn't even matter who they add. It's literally and I was watching the game yesterday. Their clubhouse is just energized, and a lot of the times that's just what it takes. Like just have a fundamental belief in what you're doing. And the Cardinals were already playing better when they got there. So anytime you jazz up the Cardinals, But for me, the deadline, the rich just get richer every year. The Dodgers, the Phillies, the Braves. It's just symptomatic of what MLB baseball is. And there was a lot of teams that did very well, but they don't even get on the top 10 lists of best trade deadline moves. But I'm more scared. Like the Cardinals are going to be, it's just going to be that mix of, maybe three teams in that division going forward. But it's the Dodgers. I mean, getting Flaherty. I mean, that's nuts. Like, getting your best pitcher in baseball when you're already just overwhelmed with talent. So I just don't know how the Dodgers lose. Well, the Phillies, it's just those.
Yeah, I mean, the Phillies picked up some bullpen help as well. Like Mitch is saying, the rich get richer, Dad. I know for you, the Dodgers are definitely a sore subject. I mean, they pick up Flaherty. Strohs could have used him. Chisholm with the Yankees. I mean, some of these teams that are perennial postseason contenders, and now the Braves are getting hot, are really made a lot of really good moves. I mean, what do you think about some of these moves at the top, Dad?
Well, look, I mean, the Yankees have a deep farm system. I mean, they've done a really good job in drafting players, developing them down in their system, and not trading them away. And so, when you've got here's the thing: when you've got the free agent money, you don't need to trade your farm system. That's basically what the Yankees have done. They just go out and buy the players they want, so they save their farm system. Same thing with the Dodgers. That's why at the end, they're able on these trade deadlines to trade a lot of talent deep in their system because they're getting the guys through free agency and they're not giving anybody up. And so a lot of other teams don't have that luxury. The Astros certainly don't have that, and other teams don't. So that's why when you say the rich get richer, you look at the trade deadlines. I mean, the Yankees gave up a lot for Chisholm, but look, if I was the Marlins, I mean, they're going nowhere. They got to retool that whole organization, top to bottom. The whole thing's a mess. So they got to retool it. So look, they got rid of players they're not going to afford. They retooled their system, and they're going to go from there. But the same thing with the Dodgers. They have players to give up. We didn't, and a lot of other teams don't. So this is why you get in the rich gets richer thing. But at the end of the day, look, I mean, Astros are going to get in the playoffs. Yankees are going to get in the playoffs. Orioles are getting in the playoffs, right? Somebody's going to have to beat. Twins are getting in. Cleveland's getting in. Somebody's going to have to beat somebody. And then all the deals you make are fine. But you know what? You got to go to 5-game series. You got to go to 7-game series, and you got to win games. And so that's what you hang your hat on. It's that at the end of the day, if you can get to the playoffs and you've got decent starting pitching, you have a shot to win. And, with all the money the Yankees and Dodgers have spent, they're not perennial World Series winners, either of the Padres, right? They haven't won anything in a while. So, clubhouse matters. All this stuff matters. But if, as a fan for a team that can't do that, I'm not going to say it's not annoying. And this is why you get back to football. This is why the salary cap has been the most brilliant thing they've ever done, because it's made the competitive balance in the league so phenomenal. Everybody's got a shot every season to get better, and that was one of the most brilliant things they've ever done.
I do think the Astros could do it if they want to. I think the Astros are super arrogant in thinking that every move they make is the right move, and that they can save money and still win, and that they can basically, they don't have to sign anyone who's demanding a big contract, and they can still put a first place team on the board. I just think they're being cheap because they think they can.
Well, it would be nice too, like the how the Giants are doing that Hard Knocks. You can see kind of what they're doing behind the scenes. Like Brian Cashman said that because and you're right, MLB just has something so right, like opening up these wild cards where half the league is still in it at the trade deadline. It's fantastic because now all the teams are either selling or buying. There's no in between. Brian Cashman said this year was the hardest and most difficult year to negotiate because everybody wanted so much money for players that didn't deserve it or wanted too much from the farm systems. And hearing some of the beat writers for the Pirates, it sounds like the Pirates were in on 4 or 5 of these blockbuster deals. They just couldn't pony up enough money for them. So I imagine if you had to behind the scenes or fly on the wall, like the Astros were trying to do something. It's just, it seemed like it was incredibly hard. So they're probably in on a lot of this stuff, but it's like, if you're not one of the savvy people that know how to maneuver this, like Cashman, obviously he knows how, and he's out there saying how difficult it was. It's just a new era. And with this awesome like wild card movement, it'd be nice if you got some like salary cap movement. And I always bring it back to the Pirates. But when you have a Paul Skeens, you have to jump. It doesn't matter what you have to go get players. It doesn't matter what your franchise looks like currently, because that's our lightning in the bottle. It's the only time period we're going to have.
Yeah, and the difference between what Mitch just said. The difference between the Pirates and the Astros, as an example, and what pisses people off about Crane now, is the Pirates' ownership. The newspaper family that I know, what's his name? The owner is Ogden, right? Oh. They don't have. They literally do not have the finances to go out and sign these big deals. They just don't have the financial model to back that. They don't have it. So their constraints are real economic constraints, right? And they're not a super wealthy family. They own a bunch of newspapers that are like dying. You go to the Astros, Jim Crane has got more money than Jesus Christ himself. So he's got like pots of gold in the house,
was
right?
rich.
The guy was a trucking magnate. He's made so much money with the Astros. It's like, hey, open your wallet. Oh, tell me, Bagwell got Abreu. He sucked. Bagwell told him to sign Montero for $35 million. Okay, write that money off, dude. You do shit in business. I'm sorry. You do bad stuff in business. Doesn't work out. You write it off. I mean, it's a part of business. You just write it. Okay, that was a bad decision. Write it off,
All right.
and you move on.
Yeah. Okay.
Write it off.
Yeah. No, enough of the Astros.
The Astros pay with fishes.
Yeah.
I'm sick of him.
Yeah. Okay. So I got to do a live read, but just I'm going to put a bow on this and move forward. I think a good example of the market being a seller's market is the fact that Tyler Skubal the Tigers didn't move Skubal, who is like a Cy Young candidate, pitching incredible. And what I read was, and I mean, I would ask for the moon too if I were the Tigers, but what I read was that they asked for everything. I mean, they basically were like, give us your entire franchise if you want Skubal. And look, Skubal's like an incredible pitcher, but that's where the market is. It's a seller's market, and that's because all of these teams still have a shot in the wild card race. So now the trade deadline is always a seller's market because there are a ton of more buyers than usual. And that's why the waiver wire, I think that Mitch is talking about, is so interesting, because there are teams that in 2 weeks will no longer be in contention. And then they're going to have to start making even more moves. But as it is right now, the fact that you have all these wild card teams, it means that you get a seller's market. So you have to overpay if you want to continue to compete. Now, one of the ways that I stay competitive is with Beard Vet coffee, because it's just the most incredible coffee I've ever had. Now, I don't have any currently, which is very sad. I don't have any coffee at the house. I had to drive all the way to McDonald's and get some coffee before the show. And then I also picked up a bunch of food. And so I'm actually kind of a little slower than usual because I pounded like 4 sausage burritos. But anyway, so Beard Vet coffee is some of the best coffee on the market right now. You gotta go to www.beardvet.com, www.beardvet.com, and you can get all sorts of things on that website. You can get the K-Cups. That's what Dad likes. He likes the Keurig. For man on the go, got to do the Keurigs. I like the whole bean. You can also get the fine ground. There's different flavors, all sorts of different flavors if you like your coffee flavored, and the stuff is terrific. If you use the promo code Godzilla, you get 10% off all of your coffee needs. They will ship it to you fast and easy, and you will not be disappointed. So go to www.beardvet.com. Beard Vet, beard like the beard, vet like veterans.com. Pick out your coffee needs and put in the promo code Godzilla for that 10% off. Okay, we got a couple more minutes. A lot of topics I had wanted to talk about. The Braves are really heating up, which I think in baseball is important, because that team was supposed to be probably the most complete team, and they were not hitting. Then we've also got Bobby Witt Jr., who is the third player, or the first player ever to have his first 3 seasons hit 20 home runs or more and steal 20 bases or more. So let's start, and Nate, we'll start with you. Let's start with Bobby Witt, because, Dad has a soft spot for the Royals, so we're kind of like a Astros/Royals radio show. Dad's always talking about Kansas City. What do you think about, in baseball has been going on for 120 years. I mean, that we've been playing baseball for 120 years, right? To set a record that's never been done before is really important. So give us your take on that.
I mean, baseball's been around for a zillion years, right? And it's like, on some level, you're like, surely like Ty Cobb would have done it or something, at least like in the dead ball era, right? But I think it just speaks to like athletes being more athletic, or like, I guess baseball players like being more athletic than maybe they used to be. I mean, gone are the days of sort of like guys smoking cigarettes in the dugout and doing, hard drugs in between innings. And I think you're just getting
the glory years.
Yeah, like the salad days of baseball are gone, and you're just getting guys that are like,
or Doc Ellis pitching a no-hitter on cocaine.
Yeah, like all of that.
No, it was on acid.
Acid, yeah. Sorry.
Doc Ellis.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that a lot of it is just, speaking to athletes being better. I'm sure some purists are probably going to say that it has to do with the bags being a little bit bigger. It's a little easier to steal bases. For a long time, the sort of sabermetrics community didn't prioritize stealing bases. And baseball sort of made some adjustments to incentivize teams to be more aggressive on the base path. So I think that's some of it. And I think that, Bobby Witt is just sort of what we're looking at when we see sort of like what like a modern baseball player looks like. They're
he might
they can hit for power.
He might be the first, but he probably won't be the last. Is kind of
Right.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
We're welcoming in Darian Kelly from the Jersey Sports Network. You can find him on X at DK Sports 410. Darian, glad that you're on the show. If you can stick around for the second hour, we would love that. We're going to be doing some college football, but I also want we'll start the second hour with some Orioles talk. But go ahead and chime in here with Bobby Witt and some of this baseball stuff.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me on. No, I think Bobby Witt is having a historical year. I think one of the things that kind of stood out to me about his performance is just how much the manager particularly speaks about him in the clubhouse. I'm talking about specifically how he's very humble. Mac Cotaro talks about how he's humble, but he also wants to see how he does in adverse situations. And with them, with the Royals improving to second place, in the AL Central, it's going to be interesting to see if they can catch up with the Guardians. But I think overall, Bobby Witt is having an amazing year.
It's amazing. How does he have a 1.3 OPS in the month of July? Like that's just not fair.
Yeah, he hit 489 in July, I think. So he's almost hitting 500 just in July. But I think Nate's point
it's
is
like 2A like high school baseball stud stats.
Yeah, that's like Joe used to do that when he would back cleanup in some high school.
Babe Ruth league.
Yeah, Dad'd be like, "Oh yeah, he hit like 500 in whatever the high school league is. You don't hit 500 in the major leagues." So it's pretty incredible. And speaking of that scorching hot offense, we got a couple more minutes, so we'll talk just a couple minutes about the Braves. I think if you're the Phillies, I don't know if you're worried about the Braves, Dad, but they are on fire. They hit 3 home runs in a game the other night. All of a sudden they're hitting, and that's all they needed. They weren't hitting at all. If you're the Phillies, Dad, are you worried now that the Braves have found their offense? Because they certainly can pitch. Charlie Morton, all those guys that they got, all those arms. I mean, are the Braves a force, or is it still the Phillies' division to win?
I think you got to look over your shoulder. I mean, here's what happened. The Braves had an awful stretch there where they were losing every day. I bet against them, and then I kept betting against them. I think they were playing the Mets or something, and they started winning. And so they've all teams go through these just bad little somewhere in the season, right? Things that wheels come off. And so Atlanta did that. They lost 8 out of 9 or something. Yeah. And now you look up, they're 5 games back, right? And they made some good acquisitions. And so if I'm Philadelphia and I've had this, 10-game lead all season, all of a sudden I look over my shoulder, I got a 5-game lead on a team that knows how to win, that is playing streaking baseball right now. I mean, if you look at the Marlins game last night, they spotted Florida 3-run lead, came back, scored 5, beat them 5-3. They got the bullpen working. They've got their starters coming back now, pitching good, and their bats are heating up. So they've had some key injuries, but all teams have injuries. So you can't even really stare at that now. So, I think going down the stretch here, I'm going to be betting Atlanta a lot, because when they start hitting with that pitching, look out. I'd rather be 5 games up, but I don't think Philadelphia is comfortable. Let me put it that way.
And they rolled the dice on their pitchers staying healthy. And I like that. And they're similar. They've got 3 starting, similar to the Pirates. If they get in, 3 of those 3 pitchers, you're not going to want to face any of them in the playoffs.
Right.
No,
exactly.
And they've had so much success in the playoffs and a lot of experience. I mean, you really don't want to face them in a wild card game or a 5-game series, of course.
Absolutely not.
So, we'll have to keep an eye on the Braves here, because all of a sudden they are heating up. You're listening to the Godzilla Win Saturday Pick Show. We're about to change to the top of the hour here, 10 o'clock Eastern time. We want to thank Mitch Rogers, who's available just for this hour, for joining us. Mitch, tell us where people can find you on Twitter.
You can find me at Mitch Rogers 18 on Twitter, and have fun with the college football talk. I'm bummed I'm missing the second hour, but
You'll have
I'll be
plenty.
listening. I'm driving to West Virginia, so I'll be listening to y'all.
What are you doing in West Virginia?
We're going to what's called the Bavarian Inn in Shepherdstown, and just taking the family and just going on a couple day trip.
Good for you.
All right. We'll have fun, Mitch, and we'll catch you again soon. Plenty of time to talk college football as well as the NFL, which is coming up. We'll have plenty of time to talk about your Steelers. We're huge in the Pittsburgh area, so we'll continue to talk Pittsburgh all the time. Thanks, Mitch, for joining us. Don't change the dial. College football coming up, and a little bit more baseball with Darian Kelly at the next hour.
Listening to Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network. For a deeper dive without the jive, visit the website of winners, GodzillaWins.com. Let's get back to the show with the guys in the know, John, Jack, and Nate. It's Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
We're back, and you're listening to the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show. We lost Nate, but he'll be back, I'm sure. I want to start, there he is. I want to start, Darian, with the Orioles, because we didn't get a chance to talk about them in the first hour. We'll do a little bit more baseball, then a bunch of college football. Should be a lot of fun. But resident O's fan, Darian Kelly, got to be super excited. What's your reaction as far as trade deadline goes and the hopes for the future? I mean, the Yankees seem to cash in pretty heavily, too. The Rays sold everything off, so probably a two-team race there in the Central, but what's your just initial reaction here as the O's come out of the trade deadline?
Yeah, I think that the O's is they're really staying on brand by essentially not trading away your farm system for pitching. I know that a lot of people want them to go and try to get a big name like a Skewball or even bringing back Jack Flaherty. But I think that more so they're sticking to their guns. It's kind of disheartening to kind of watch them, right now go up against the Guardians and having the struggles that they're having, with the bullpen. How it looks is just like, we have three, legit, starters. We got Eflin, who's going to be on the mound this evening. But outside of that, we're leaning pretty hard, on our offense. And then, Jordan Westberg goes down with the hand fracture. Now he's on, he's on the IL. So, we're rebounding, but I also like the call up of Kobe Mayo, who's going to be a big bat, coming in at third base. Had an amazing, career, in the minors, batting, 301, 20 homers, 61 RBIs. I think that he could be a 30-plus homer guy in the bigs. So I like the direction that we're going in, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a battle. That's why I have on my fatigue sweatshirt, because I just think that we're in a battle right now, against the Yankees and, these next couple of series with the Guardians, and then also to the Astros coming up later on at the end of this month will really show how, far we're willing to go in the playoffs this year.
Dad, do you agree with Darian that it's going to be a fight here, or can the O's pull away?
Yeah, I think the Yankees made too many acquisitions for them to pull away. And, the Yankees, again, went through that. It's kind of like what we were talking about at Atlanta. I mean, you go one of those horrific losing streaks they had. I mean, what did they lose? Like 13 of 16 or something? It was 15 of 18. I mean, it was just awesome. I mean, horrible, awesome for the Orioles. So they go through that streak, and the Yankees now win a couple of games. They got beat last night by Toronto, but they win five straight. You look up, they're tied for first. So this is why I like the Yankees to win this division. They spit the bit. They had a dreadful July. I think there were 15 games under 500. I mean, it's just horrible. And now you turn around, they got a few acquisitions. They're tied for first, and it's okay. That's behind them now, and I think they're on the Orioles' heels. So if I had to bet now, I think the Yankees are going to win that division. Don't underestimate this guy Chisholm from Florida. Now, I don't like his attitude. I couldn't stand this guy from day one when he made the statement. They were talking about the Marlins not being that good, and he says, "Hey, I play to get paid. I get paid in the first and the 15th." Like, what a jackass. Okay. I mean, what a total jerk. Okay. Now he's with a team that's playing to win. Maybe his attitude will change, but that's just not the way baseball's played. If you're playing baseball to get paid in the first and the 15th, I mean, you're just not a good teammate, right? It's just not the way the game works. If you really understand it, the camaraderie, the clubhouse, everything else. So I'm not a fan of the guy personally, but besides I've met him several times when he coached one of Joe's teams in Florida. Nice enough guy, but that statement pissed me off. But look, he's going to make a difference. And I think the Orioles, as good as they are, I think they're in a dogfight. I think the New York's going to win that division.
You're so funny with that, nonsense about how like athletes should just be doing it for the love of the game and the love of the team. Like, who cares? Like, if I'm a baseball player, what do I care about the Florida Marlins? And then not only that, every time you're quoted in the newspaper about your own business, Dad, you're always like, I run a business. I'm here to sell ads and make money. I don't care about anything else, blah, blah, blah. So, Shoe's always on the other foot when you're talking about these athletes. They are there.
But I still believe in what I'm doing. I mean, it's just like, why would you say that in the media?
Doesn't care if he plays for the Marlins.
I don't care who you root for. I don't care for the Chicago White Sox that have lost 18 straight now, and they're going to have the worst record in the history of modern baseball. I mean, it's still a team. It's still your teammates. You're playing for money. You're going to make the big money, but you also, you want to have the fun of the game. That's what I tell Joe all the time. The day you're not having fun is the day you're not going to do well. You got to love your teammates. You got to love them up. You got to be good in the clubhouse. All these intangibles, and you got to have fun. If you're not having fun, dude, you're not going to get that guy out in the eighth inning with second and third and one out. You got to be having fun, enjoying your teammates, lifting them up. Not saying, hey, I get paid in the first and 15th. I don't care if we win or lose. That was a guy's statement. I get paid either way. What a jackrabbit out.
Yeah, no, I don't agree with that at all. I mean, I think it's actually kind of refreshing to hear a professional athlete just talk about the money. I mean, that's
does Mike Trout do it for the love of the game, or is he just dying every time the Angels just sell off the whole team around him?
Yeah,
but you don't say that. You don't care about whether your team wins.
But why not? I mean, like, why can't we just be a little bit more honest about like the motivation for this stuff? I mean, I just like that. That's that Russell Wilson thing, or I'm forgetting his name now. Mike Tomlin, right? Just like these guys who don't ever say anything. Like they just every time they're interviewed, they just say like word salads that don't mean anything. At least like Jazz Chisholm, when interviewed, is like, hey, I mean, I don't care if I play for the Marlins or the Yankees. I'm just trying to make money.
And baseball is such like a team sport, like with like you need such a diverse amount of talent, like pitching, hitting, fielding, like all these things. It's not like basketball where like you're just one of like five guys and you can actually change like a team. Like this is just plays a position on a major league team. Like he can't control if the rest of the team sucks.
Yeah, but Nate, you got it half right. Okay. There's a purity in baseball that no other sport has. You grow up with it.
That's not true.
That's not true. That's
ridiculous.
You guys
just because it's 1,000 years old doesn't mean it's
purity in baseball. You take your sons to play it, your daughters to play it. You
take your sons and daughters to play all sorts of
purity. Don't take the purity. This is why I love Bobby Witt, right? I mean, the guy's 22 years old, 23 years old, setting records. You can't take the purity out of the game. If you take the purity out of the game, you've lost one of the greatest American things ever. You can't take it out. And when people try to do that, I really get upset by it. I grew up in this game. I love this game. And you gotta have an appreciation for it. I mean, one thing that's made a Joe successful, he had this coach when he was 8 or 9, a Bobby Heft in Chesapeake. And he used to scream at the players all the time. The guy was crazy, right? But he taught Joe the purity and the love of the game. He taught him that. And that Joe will take that forever. Those coaches early, you got to teach that. You got to teach the
Yeah, but
purity
that's
and the
not
love of
okay.
the
That's
game.
so
Yeah,
You gotta
we're
love
about
the
to
game.
move on. We're about to move on to the impurity of college football here in a minute. But that's like taking your kids to play sports does not equal purity. Like, I mean, when your
The
kid
game is
Hey,
pure.
kids go to the basketball courts too. Like
Yeah,
basketball,
like, I mean,
by that
there's-
metric, like every sport is like
Yeah,
aside from like football.
there's no
is
clock in
pure.
baseball. You play it outside.
all
You
right,
got
now you're
grass.
just saying things like from movies. Shout out to Navy Yard
Yeah.
Nats who said Scott Boras is not pure. So there you go. Yeah, that's probably the best comment on there. I mean, if you want to talk baseball purity, then maybe we should talk about the guy who's infecting everyone with his nonsense, Scott Boras. So we're gonna do a little bit. We're gonna do a little bit college football here in the next hour. Just keep doing some future stuff because we're right here. I mean, like. We're right here. There's only a couple more weeks away until the college football season really kicks off. So we want to talk about some of the big conferences, a lot of this conference realignment. Now, I want to start with the SEC, then we'll go to the Big Ten and the ACC, do some future stuff. Now, Dad, just like we're going to give you a lot of grace. All right. There's been a lot of conference realignment. So please, I tell my students this all the time. If you don't know, ask questions. If you don't know where Oregon is in the conference, what conference they're in, Dad, just ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions because this is difficult. I mean, like all of a sudden, the Big Ten has 18 teams, like Big Ten plus 8. The SEC added Texas and Oklahoma. I can't even remember what the ACC added, but like, I don't know, Stanford, Duke, something like that. Though they've always had Duke, but I know they've added some. So we'll talk about all that. We want to talk about some of the stuff, and I'll read off some of the futures bets, but we're going to start here with the SEC because I think the SEC and the Big Ten are the most interesting. We got Darian and Nate both kind of in the Texas area. So let's start there. Texas and Oklahoma, SEC. Now, Dan Angel, you go to GodzillaWins.com. He loves Texas to win the SEC this year, or at least go to the SEC championship game. Darian, do you feel the same way about the Texas Longhorns this year? Do they have a shot in the big bad SEC? No more conferences, so it's not like the West cannibalizes itself and then the East just gets to coronate Georgia, as it were. Everybody plays everybody now. So what do we think about Texas, Darian?
Yeah, I really like Texas to at least make the championship game. I think I like Georgia to win the SEC this year, but it's not as like the Texas. I like that they're bringing in quality receivers. The receiver play is going to be just as good, if not as good as last year's was, and you're bringing back the entire offensive line for Texas, which is huge when you already have that in place, and then you have a guy like Quinn Ewers who is going to be in the Heisman conversation. I think they're due for a big year, and they're also my pick to be in the national championship as well. So yeah, I think Texas is going to do extremely well. And you look at their schedule. I think it's even though people say they kind of got off on the easy side with having teams. I think they're playing Kentucky as well as Vanderbilt, but they have some pretty tough games. We're going to really see what they're made of. Given that they have Georgia at home, they're going to be on the roll at A&M, and they also have Arkansas as well, which are big in conference rivalry games. Between Arkansas and Texas. Then you have them versus A&M, which is also a long-standing rivalry. So it's going to be a tough schedule, but I like Texas in the SEC championship game.
Nate, how do you feel about Texas here? I'm trying to pull up their odds, but it takes a while to get to the SEC while
They're plus
320
to win the SEC.
All right. So how do you feel about Texas? I mean, that's the second best odds, right after Georgia, who is a perennial powerhouse, who may actually struggle this year based on their schedule. Is Texas a good bet?
I mean, I think so. I mean, when we think about college football, and some of this is a little bit dated, how we handicap it because the transfer portal has sort of changed things a little bit. But often what we're looking for is how much production is a team returning, because chemistry plays a huge part in football. It's why we don't see a very active trade deadline in football in the NFL. And, it's important to get some sort of continuity, and it's been a problem for a lot of college teams. And Texas returns so much talent this year. I mean, they're returning basically something around 90% of their offense in terms of production level. A similar amount for their defense. Basically, they return something like 80% of all the tackles they made last year and basically all of their pass breakups. So basically their entire secondary and most of their linebacking core is coming back. So when you just look at, what they're bringing back that they had last year, and they were a good team last year. I mean, you have to think they're going to be better. You have to think they're going to be better. And if they're better, that means they're good enough to contend in the SEC. And I was pretty skeptical of them a couple of years ago when they decided to make this jump. But Sarkisian's been real. Like he's the real deal. Like he went to Texas to win them a national title and to get them in the playoff, and he got them in the playoff last year. And I think that they're really close to being able to, sort of cross that threshold and become, as much as it pains me, a national champion level team.
Yeah, you're not a Texas guy, hailing from Oklahoma, though you're in Texas now, so better get used to it. Dad, Georgia plus 190 to win the SEC, Texas plus 320, Ole Miss plus 650, Alabama plus 750, and then we get to the 10-1s. Any interest in some of those top teams there?
Well, I already bet Ole Miss, not because I think they're going to win, but I'm an Ole Miss fan in the SEC. I like watching him. I love their coach. I love what he's doing. I love his post-game interviews. I love that Tennessee throws golf balls at him. I love everything about Lane Kiffin. So I just like watching.
Right. And you said his name right.
Wow, that's the first time.
It took me 3 years, Kiffin, to say his name right. Plus, Iowa State has got a new girlfriend now, so he's in a good mood. So, things are working out for him after he split up with his wife. So that's so good. Hope he's happy. So, but here's my question. Where's Oregon playing?
The Big Ten.
Big Ten.
We're going to get to
in the Big Ten. What about Oregon State?
They're
in their own
they're
reduced Pac-12 conference.
What is it? The Pac-1?
Yeah,
Pac-1.
Pac-2, something like that. Yeah, they're like an independent. So
what about wait? What about just quick, because a lot of people don't know this. Where's Washington playing?
Big Ten.
Big Ten.
Washington State.
Pac-12, I think still.
Yeah,
Pac-12 still. Yeah.
So the Pac-12 has got it's now the Pac-2. So I'm on the radio the other day with one of the baseball coaches, WVU Sabins, and I said Power 5, and he corrected me. He says, "No, there's no Power 5. It's Power 4." So I guess there's Power 4 now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, look, if you had to pick this thing, you got to pick Georgia because they're Georgia and they just seem to continue to get the best players. But there's like SEC football and there's everything else, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, maybe. I mean, the Big Ten, I think this year is going to be really interesting. UGA has a tough schedule this year. They got Clemson. They also have to go to Tuscaloosa to face Alabama. Still got to play Auburn, even though there's no conference. They got to go to Austin, play Texas. They got to go to Oxford and play Ole Miss. They got to play Tennessee, which is going to be tough. So, as far as scheduling goes in the SEC, I think UGA, while of course they always have a shot to win this thing, that's what they do. I do think that they are going to have a more difficult path than Texas. However, my thing with Texas, and Dad talked about this with Lane Kiffin and his personal life. Steve Sarkisian's getting a divorce. One thing I know about relationships is that I don't think you can win an SEC championship in the middle of a divorce. I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. If Miss Terry divorced Nick Saban in the middle of a season, they're not winning 12 games. It's just too hard.
I get that.
And we know. I mean, look,
That's
I love Sark. I love him. I mean, his story is incredible. The sobriety, the comeback, interning basically as offensive coordinator at Alabama, getting this job at Texas. I mean, I got no problem with Sark. Obviously, we're just having a little bit of fun here, but I don't know, man. Middle of a divorce, you're meeting with lawyers, and then you're trying to win an SEC championship.
And you got kids and all that. And I tell you, if Mom were to decide today to leave me, the company would collapse in 10 days. It would just collapse. I mean, and I would just, it would collapse. There would be no company.
It'd be like,
I mean, what you would have to go through with that, and you're trying to coach, Power 4, SEC football. I mean, I think that's a big deal. I mean, your personal life matters when you got to put all that time and effort in it, and you got to be singularly focused during that season.
I'm very bullish on Ole Miss this year. Obviously, I went there, but I'm usually bearish, I guess, on Ole Miss. I hate them. Yeah. They make me mad. All they do is lose the big games and cause more pain and suffering to come my way. But I like Ole Miss this year. I think plus 650 is some pretty good talent there, or pretty good odds. And they do have a lot of talent. Lane Kiffin's coming into his own, and they really don't have that they miss LSU and a couple other teams this year because of the conference schedule. So I'm all in on Ole Miss for the SEC, and we'll just have to see what happens here. Good thing, Dad, you're not getting a divorce, and one of the reasons I think is because you keep bringing Ann to Rosie's Gaming Emporium. Talk a little bit about how Rosie's plays a important part of your relationship.
When mom is happy, everybody's happy. I mean, as simple as that. All you guys out there, I mean, I got the key to marriage. It is so easy. Number one, just say yes. Number two, if she says no, don't do it. And number three, if mom is happy, everybody's happy. That's all you have to do. Just keep her happy. Anne loves to go to Rosie's. We have so much fun. It's all about fun. So we go to Rosie's, biggest jackpots, biggest payouts. Why? Well, because they got the lowest take. Thank you, Georgia General Assembly. They got the lowest takeout. So you're going to get the biggest payouts, going to get the biggest jackpots. Horse racing right now. Now, normally I'm there with the suite the whole time. I'm not getting there till late this season because I missed it because they got a Republican convention. Now I got the Democratic convention in Chicago. I got to go to that. But I'll be there next week for a couple of days. But hey, it is so much fun. And I love Rosie's because this is not like your when you go to Vegas and they'll pump the oxygen in and there's no lights and no windows. No, Rosie's the opposite. They got windows open. It's fun. Food is great. Big payouts. It is a fun place to go. They got great machines. And then, of course, Colonial Downs, greatest racetrack in America. I love going there. Tied now with Saratoga. Saratoga's get refurbished, so they've been closed this summer. We'll see how that goes. Oaklawn, number 3. Beautiful racetrack. Go to colonialdowns.com. They got 3 major races coming up. The first one is going to be Saturday, August 10th, one of the big stake races. You got to go to that. If you're in the area, get your tickets now. Don't miss out. All you got to do is go to colonialdowns.com, colonialdowns.com, August 10th on Saturday, big stake races. Some of the biggest payouts in the country are going to be right there. Don't miss Colonial Downs, colonialdowns.com.
You're listening to the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show here. You can go to GodzillaWins.com for all of your analysis. You can go to the daily picks on GodzillaWins.com, find all of our picks, especially Dad's. He's going crazy. If you're listening, look, you can find us on pretty much everything: Getter, Rumble, X, YouTube, Facebook. Everything's there. If you're listening in on Twitter, on X, send us a comment here. We can see them pop up. So go ahead and comment. Drop us a line. We're talking college football futures, baby. Let's do the Big 10. Now the Big 18. Darren, we're going to start with you again. I'll read off a couple odds here. Just let me, chime in when you think. We'll read off maybe the first 4. So Ohio State plus 155. They're the favorites to win the Big 10. Oregon plus 200. Penn State plus 500. Now Michigan plus 700. Of course, Michigan national champions, but losing Harbaugh, got a tough schedule. Also, I think Michigan and Ohio State always have the trouble with them has been that only one can come out of the East in the Big 10. That's different now. No conferences. So you just got to be good. Darren, what do you think? I mean, any of those teams you like, or you like Nebraska at plus 5,500? Where are you going with this?
Yeah, I really like Ohio State to win the Big 10 this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon won it as well. I'll say it for a few reasons. I think Ohio State is bringing back a lot of key guys on defense, guys that could have went to the NFL, like the Jack Sawyers and JT Tuimoloau of the world. They're bringing back 2 key, a couple guys in the secondary who are going to be crucial, as far as Denzel Burke. So I think that they have the defense that'll carry them, in the Big 10. I think they're going to be more aggressive on the offense and the run game. You have guys like Chip Kelly. You bring in, Quinshawn Judkins from Ole Miss, a transfer. So I think Ohio State is going to be, pretty well-rounded, and the strength of this team is going to be, the defense and that running game. But Oregon, you look at the talent that they've added. They've added Texas A&M transfer, wide receiver Evan Stewart, who was at a remarkable season last year with the Aggies. Now he's with the Ducks, and Dylan Gabriel came over from Oklahoma. And you also look at the Ducks defense. Dan Lanning has done a tremendous job recruiting. You look at that front 7, you have blue chip recruits all over the place. And I think that's why they'll be competitive. But I think with the pressure being on Ohio State this year, I think they'll get them done. And also to expect Oregon and Ohio State to play multiple times this year. Ohio State's going to face them in Eugene, but they might face them again in the conference championship and in the playoffs. So I think that they'll play multiple times this year, but it's going to be an interesting dogfight to see who's going to win that conference between Ohio State and Oregon.
Darian, your head is saying Ohio State, but your heart is saying Oregon. That was like the most Oregon Central pitch for Ohio State I've heard. You were like, "Hey, Oregon's going to win the Big Ten, but let me talk. Ohio State's going to win the Big Ten, but let me talk to you about how much I love the Oregon Ducks." Nate, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have like a head versus heart debate. I think that Oregon is going to win the Big Ten. I don't think that it's Ohio State's year. I mean, I think that Oregon just looks like they're bringing everything back that's good. Their defense is going to be excellent, as good probably as, sort of like Iowa or Penn State. I think that they have a defense that matches up there, and I think the offense is going to be fine. And I think that Ohio State, I just like when I look at Oregon, you look at them and you look at the schedule and you think like at bottom they're a 10-win team. Like that's like worst case scenario, they have 10 wins. Like they're double-digit favorite in basically every game except 2, and it's against Ohio State and Michigan. And I just don't see like them losing any other games other than, and those are not even games that I'm sure they'll lose either. So I like Oregon just feels like they're built for this. And I look at Ohio State and I think, yeah, like, first of all, is like when we look at Ohio State, like is Chip Kelly the answer like for their offense? Like, is that what's going to bring them back? I don't know. I think that, you get guys, John's always the big locker room guy. They get Quinshon Judkins, who is nothing but a pain for Ole Miss. Always complaining about NIL stuff, grousing about like, offensive line protection, play call, all that stuff. And then he goes to Ohio State, which is, going to be a bigger sort of, microscope on him. Ohio State, playing at Ohio State is a lot more national scrutiny than playing at Ole Miss. And I don't know how well all of that works for them, like adding all of these sort of disparate pieces to their team that, could be sources of sort of chemistry trouble later on. I just feel like Oregon is probably in a better spot to really contend.
You're right. So Ohio State always has locker room issues too. I mean, they're kind of always a mess. So there's that. Being an Ole Miss fan, I think when Judkins, I watched Judkins play on the field. He's dynamite and he's incredible. He's really, really good. And he's one of the reasons Ole Miss was so successful on offense. People think about Ole Miss and they think like Mike Leach air raid, like that's they score quickly or whatever. They do score quickly, but Lane Kiffin runs the ball. I mean, almost more than he passes the ball.
Yeah.
So if he can't run the ball, his offense really struggles. And you've seen that against teams like Alabama, who have basically shut them down. They've always needed some offensive line help. They got some offensive line help from some guys from Washington who transferred after Kalen DeBoer took the Alabama job. So Ole Miss should be okay. But as Ole Miss fans, we were shocked at first to see Judkins enter the transfer portal, and then immediately that conversation was put to rest because of the locker room issues. It seems as though Lane Kiffin basically said, "Go ahead. We don't. This isn't working," and that happens, and that's okay. I mean, this is the new frontier in college football. It's all right if guys are unhappy. He is a really good running back, and he should be good on the field, but you don't know how it's going to be continuity wise in the locker room for Ohio State, and so we'll see. And there's a lot of running the ball at Ohio State is like that's going to be, I don't know. Chip Kelly passes the ball a lot, so we'll see. I'm not convinced that Quinshon Judkins will be as successful as he was at Ole Miss, but that's because if you play in Lane Kiffin's system, you are part of his system. So it's hard to know if you can have success outside that. So he's an incredible player, but we'll see. Now, Dad, any love here for some of the Midwest teams? Seems like everybody likes Oregon, but we still got Michigan at plus 700. You got Ohio State at plus 190. Seems like our panel here is really falling in love with the Pac-12, former Pac-12, now the Western side of the Big Ten.
So I bet Ohio State to win the national championship at 4-1.
All right.
And I also bet him to win the Big Ten at, I think it was 2-1. I have to check what I did, but I did that, something like that. I did it a couple days ago, I think Monday. But I bet him at 4-1. And I did it for one reason. I just think Ryan Day is going to have the breakout year. I mean, here's what this guy did, right? He realized this is what coaching has now become. and I'm not criticizing it. I'm just giving you a factoid. This is what coaching has become. It's not about going to high schools and meeting somebody in their home and trying to recruit them the way it was a decade ago or 5 years ago. It's now about raising money to pay people, because now it's these people are paid. I mean, you guys really got to understand that. And if you tie in the compromise that was just made, the legal compromise, where every team has a $22 million cap to pay players, right? There's $22 million to pay players. The majority of that going to football and basketball, but that's the cap. That's the cap for the university paying them. You can get NIL money that's apart from that. So you can be paying kids $50 million, not a kid, the team. So Ryan Day figured this out. He understood that he just didn't have the personnel to compete with Michigan. So he said, I need $25 million in my NIL fund in order to get this done. Because the $22 million cap, Ohio State's going to write a check, revenue share. They got that covered, rich school. So he goes out, he raises $30 million. He gets he's got a phone and a pen, right? Picks up the phone every day. He's making calls like I do. And he raises, $30 million from donors, whatever, to pay these players. And yes, it's going to be some locker room strife, because now everybody knows what everybody's getting paid. It's out in the open. But he has brought in some really, really top talent there, and he's paying them. And so I think that Ryan Day is 1 year ahead of the curve from everybody else. He saw this coming. He figured it out. He's got great talent in there. And look, his bugaboo is he can't beat Michigan. I think this is the breakout year. Ohio State's got a very talented team. They're very fast. They're very big. They got great players. They're paying them a ton of money. I think it's going to be their year. So at 4-1 with all that talent and all that money, I'm going with Ryan Day. I think he finally busts out.
Nate,
we worked so hard on these golf winners
to
pad your DK account, and then you just throw it all away on the Astros futures and Ohio State.
The Astros, I got 50.
You just waste it. You just waste it.
Yeah, until they win.
Until they win, they're not winning.
Well, give me another golf winner.
He will.
Yeah, I mean, you need it now. You just erased all of our previous success on Ohio State futures for a team that has no proven parts. They're leaning on two guys that are transfers. We have no idea how they're going to perform in this system.
Well, I'm betting they perform good. That's why I took the Astros
4-1
the Astros went up to 15-1. I mean, this team knows how to win in the playoffs. I'm getting 15-1. I mean, you bet $1,000. You get 15,000. You bet 100.
As you watch Kikuchi give up 4 home runs in the in the rubber match in the divisional round. So good luck with there. Look, I got one other Big Ten wager for you, and shout out to Dan Angel who's got this on the site as well. Rutgers over 6.5 wins at plus 105. That's better than even money, baby. And listen, Rutgers is now back in play as a team that can win 6 to 7 games a year. So watch out. But really the thing with Rutgers is they don't play anybody. They play Howard, Akron, Virginia Tech. They could stumble there. They got Washington. That's going to be a loss. But then, Nebraska, Wisconsin, UCLA, USC, Minnesota, Maryland, Illinois, and Michigan State. They miss Michigan and Ohio State. They can get to 7 wins, and they also miss Oregon, and they miss one other of the powerhouse teams. Either maybe is it USC or UCLA? I think no, they play UCLA. There's another team they miss, and there's only 2 teams that in the Big Ten who get to miss all 4 of those big teams: Oregon, Michigan, Ohio State. One more, I'm blanking on it, but I'll think about it as soon as we move on to a different segment. So I'm all in on Rutgers over 6.5 wins plus 105, baby. Lock it in now, Dad. You can go ahead and do that, and we'll be Rutger fans all year long. Gotta love it.
I'm going to give you the best bet. I'm going to give you the best bet opening day, August 31st. Let me tell you the best bet. I love this game, right? I'm going to keep betting it every day. West Virginia at home plus 10.5 over Penn State. I love that. West Virginia's going to win this whole game. This is the sleeper team. This is the sleeper team in the Big 12, guys. I'm telling you, they got a great quarterback in Green. And I tell you what, when that asshead coach of Penn State scored that touchdown at the end and called the timeout, in last season's game at Penn State in order to embarrass them. That has stayed with this West Virginia team the entire season. Guys, a jackass, okay? They're going to come in to West Virginia, country roads. West Virginia going to win the whole game. I'm getting 10.5. They are so motivated for this game because that touchdown at the end pissed me off, pissed the whole team off the entire season. You're a jackass. The coach is
okay. Oh my God! How many times
signed by the FCC?
And I'm getting 10.5. I bet him pick them.
Yeah. Well, then bet them, pick them. Then
I did. I bet the money line too.
Yeah, right. I bet the money line. Yeah. Listen, they're not gonna win that game. They might not even cover, but good luck. You've been cussing a lot on the radio today, so that's interesting. Listen, before we move on, we got to talk a little bit about how to deal with the inflammation that all of us have to basically fight every day. And the way you do that is get our Native Path's Antarctic krill oil. Have you read about the possible side effects from taking ibuprofen? And to top it all off, ibuprofen doesn't even get to the main cause of your pain and swelling problems. It's only temporary pain relief, and it's only masking the true problem, which is inflammation. This isn't your solution to pain. Right now, you can go to getnativepath.com/Godzilla wins. That GETNATIVEPATH.com/Godzilla wins. That's the whole website, GodzillaWins.com. GODZILLA. Wait, GODZILLAWINS, Godzilla wins. It'll take you right to the landing page. You can read all about Antarctic krill oil, the benefits, and why you should start taking it. And then if you start scrolling, you'll see how you can claim your offer. There'll be a little button that pops up there. Researchers are saying add this Antarctic super nutrient to your diet. Dad's got the bottle right there. He's been taking it, says he feels a whole lot better. Krill oil is omega-3s, and we all know that you got to make sure you have those omega-3 fatty acids. So if you're not eating fish every day, then it's important to get those omega-3s somehow, and you can get them through getnativepath.com/Godzilla wins. These are omega-3 fatty acids sourced from wild-caught krill. The krill oil is pure, effective, and easily absorbed into the body with a zero fishy taste. The omega-3 content from krill oil has been shown to support healthy blood pressure, circulation, brain health, as well as reduce inflammation, swelling, and joint system. Better yet, for a limited time, you can grab Native Path Antarctic krill oil for as low as $19 a bottle with free shipping plus a free gift. So you get to claim a gift as well. This is an incredible deal. I really strongly recommend everybody go to Get Native Path, GETNATIVEPATH.com/Godzilla wins, GODZILLAWINS, Godzilla wins. You'll find the landing page. You can claim your offer. You can get a froth or get all sorts of stuff. We love this krill oil. Go ahead and buy some right now. Cannot get a better deal than $19 plus free shipping plus a free gift. Really incredible deal. So please check it out and give them a try. You will not be disappointed. All right. You're listening to the Godzilla One Saturday Pick Show here on whatever platform you desire. We're pretty much everywhere. We're still doing college football. We love it. We're pumped. We're only a couple weeks away. We got the Olympics. That'll wrap up. And then we're here with college football and NFL. As soon as we hit that August, September mark, it's just football until January. Maybe we'll sprinkle in a little NBA or UFC here or there. But for the most part, we're just talking football. So got to get started early. Let's go to the ACC now. I left off the Big 12, but we can talk about the Big 12 possibly. ACC championship game winners. The futures here are Florida State plus 290. Remember, Florida State got screwed last year and was not in the college football playoff. Clemson plus 350. Miami plus 400. That's a weird one. Louisville plus 650. And the list goes on. Darian, we'll start with you. What about the ACC do you like this year? What team are you going to be looking at closely?
Yeah, the team I'm going to be looking at closely this year is the Miami Hurricanes for many reasons. I think that they did a great job in the portal, essentially bringing over Cam Ward, who was the guy coming in from Washington State, addresses their quarterback issue. And I think that when you have a capable quarterback, especially, in a conference like the ACC, where the days of, Florida State and Clemson essentially running that conference those are, I think, are long gone. Those days are kind of behind us. I think that Miami will make a statement this year. And when you think about, not just the offense, but the defense as well, their secondary has experience. They have a returning starter at cornerback, as well. They also brought in a new defensive coordinator. So I think that, they've shored up things on the defensive side. It's just going to be a matter of, can they survive their schedule, which isn't, as I don't think as difficult as like a Clemson or Florida State, this year. With Florida State having, to go on the road this year, you look at, I think they're essentially going up against, a few road teams, this year as well. And then Clemson, has some couple landmines, especially with Georgia. So it's going to be interesting to see, who pops up in the ACC. But my money's on Miami.
So Darian likes Miami. Interesting pick there. Nate, got any love for the Hurricanes, or you want to go with Florida State? Or
I think it's got to be Florida State for me. I mean, they just if DJU comes back to the ACC and wins with Florida State, it's not only going to just crush Clemson fans' hearts, which we always love here, but I think that it's going to be a good story. I mean, he's a guy that really kind of struggled at Clemson, went to Oregon State, kind of seems like he got his game back, and now he's at Florida State, and we'll see what happens. But I mean, Florida State, if we're just talking, if we're using the John metric of teams that are going to be extremely motivated this season because of slights or snubs, perceived or otherwise, like Florida State's got to be high on the list. I mean, they missed out on the college football playoff last year because Jordan Travis gets hurt. He's obviously in the NFL now, but a lot of the team is back. I just don't see like any way that Florida State shouldn't be the sort of favorite in this conference, and they are. But I think that they're a reasonable bet at plus 300-ish if you can get it. I think that the team that's interesting to me, that's sort of a little bit lower down the list, is Louisville. Like added a bunch of pieces in the transfer portal and plus 650 in an ACC conference that routinely sort of surprises, I guess. Not like always in a good way. It's ACC, I feel like, is a conference that surprises in its mediocrity at times. And you're like, wow, these teams are all just sort of not awesome. I think that like Louisville could step out and be sort of a surprise team in ways that we're probably not going to see in the SEC or Big Ten. They're too top heavy. I don't look at the ACC and think this is like a top heavy, like loaded conference. I think that, there's room for a team that's maybe slated third, fourth, fifth best to sort of surprise people and actually win this conference, as opposed to the sort of 2-horse race that most of these other ones are.
Yeah. I mean,
why are you throwing out Clemson?
I'm not throwing out Clemson. I don't love the odds. And I guess I guess that's just my personal biases against Clemson coming.
Yeah. Nate's not a big Dabo Sweeney guy. And look, Dad, Nate's hitting those 18-1 dingers on golf. He's not interested in plus 350 on Clemson. But I was just going to ask you, Dad, if maybe you thought Clemson had a shot, because they are, plus 350, Florida State plus 290. So is Clemson your pick then?
Yes, at plus 350. I mean, ACC football, it's just not what it was. It's just going downhill. I mean, let's just be candid. I mean, it's just not a football conference. And some of the games are fun. I guess Duke throwing the ball around or something. I guess, and I don't even know who's in the conference now. Stanford or something. It's a joke. I mean, compared to SEC football, hey, they're good games to bet. There's a lot of scoring, not a lot of defense. But you want to watch a college football game. You want to watch a conference. You're putting on an SEC game. You're putting on Big Ten. I think you're putting on Big 12 football. But, I'm going to say, I'm going to stay up tonight so I can watch Stanford Duke at 8 p.m. on ABC playing a college football game. Like, I'd rather go to a movie. I got better things to do with my time. Just not interesting. So, I'm going to go with Clemson. And but I tell you what, Stanford's got to fly all over. They got to fly east. The people got to fly west. That's going to be interesting to see. If you want to take a shot here, you might bet Stanford at home and bet against them on the road. I mean, it's a long flight week after week to be able to do that. They got the same thing going on in the Big 12, and the baseball thing is, I looked at the schedule. Like just West Virginia, they fly to Utah, they fly back, they fly to Arizona, they fly back, they fly here, they fly back. It's going to be tough because it's 4 or 5 hours on it's tough, but it's tough for people coming in too. So, you're Florida State, you got to fly to Stanford. You might as well be flying to Moscow. It's like a 10-hour flight. So we'll see. We'll see how this works out. It's going to be interesting.
I love this narrative, like in the NFL and the NBA, where they travel constantly, just continuously throughout the season. We're like, yeah, it's basketball.
Yeah, but
and then in college football, we're like, my God, flying across the country. What, like,
well,
how do they
yeah,
do
but
it?
it's harder to get from Tallahassee to Palo Alto than it is to get from Phoenix to New York City. I mean, there are some differences there. Like you can't fly into Morgantown. You have to fly into Pittsburgh and then take a bus. Same thing with Ole Miss. I mean, I don't know. Like maybe they fly into the private airport in Oxford and get them there. Maybe they fly into Memphis, and especially the smaller teams. Now, the football, yeah, maybe like you are getting a direct charter from Tallahassee to Palo Alto, but Dad's talking about baseball where that money isn't there.
Right.
And
No, it's not
some of the
there.
smaller schools, absolutely, getting from UNC Chapel Hill and flying out to Washington is very difficult and takes a little bit more time than a charter flight. So I
Well,
see that.
I'll give you a sidebar.
Well, I don't know if I want a sidebar.
I got to keep a sidebar.
I don't
Really
want to talk.
good sidebar.
I don't want to talk baseball in
No, it's but
August.
just it's a sidebar to tie into what you're saying. Only team that beat West Virginia 2 out of 3 at home last season. They lost one series. That was Oklahoma State, and I think they're Stillwater. So Oklahoma State raised the money, very smart, to get a plane from Stillwater to Morgantown, right? Instead of going from Stillwater to Oklahoma City to Pittsburgh. So they charter a plane and they beat West Virginia 2 out of 3. It was the only series they got beat at home all season. And so that was smart. And so Oklahoma State figured it out. Get on the phone, raise the money, get over there, win 2 out of 3, go back. Smart.
I don't want any more baseball sidebars. College baseball's over. We're into college football. No more baseball sidebars. But what I do want to talk about very quickly is Healthy Cell. Here's a sidebar, Healthy Cell. So when we talked earlier about REM sleep, and we love that. I also love Joint Health and Mobility. That's my favorite Healthy Cell product, or one of the ones I use every day. I use REM sleep all the time as well. You go to healthycell.com. They got all sorts of products, but find that Joint Health and Mobility. I do a lot of exercising, less so these days. Not after 4 sausage burritos. I'm not doing exercising, but usually I do some exercising. And when I do exercise, I like to have Healthy Cell's Joint Health and Mobility at my disposal, because what it does is it really gives me an ability to heal from some of the joint pain that I just feel regularly exercising. The older you get, when you're 23, I mean, you don't really necessarily need like joint pain, like supplements. You just don't. But when you're a little bit older, you do. And I mean, it doesn't matter what I do these days. My hip, I mean, I can be walking, my hip starts hurting. I'll wake up and my knee hurts for no reason. My shoulders hurt, my like elbows hurt. I mean, like everything's falling apart here for someone who's really not that old. But I gotta love Healthy Cell, and I love their Joint Health Mobility because it does help me become a little bit more mobile. So you go to healthycell.com. That's www.healthycell.com. All sorts of products you can pick from, but the one I really love is Joint Health and Mobility. You use the promo code Godzilla. That's promo code Godzilla. Get you 10% off all of those Healthy Cell products. So check out Joint Health and Mobility at healthycell.com. You won't be disappointed. Okay, we're going to do a very quick Big 12 preview, I think, and then we'll do some golf because we got to get to Nate's Olympic golf picks here. They're in the middle of their third round, Nate, I believe. So we'll have a pretty good idea of who's going to emerge as the winner. I think Hojgaard shot 9 under today. So now all of a sudden he's in the conversation. So Big 12. Dad's favorite conference because of West Virginia. Utah plus 320, Kansas State plus 380, Oklahoma State plus 750, UCF plus 950, and then it just goes on and on. So Darian, you like Utah plus 320? I mean, this is a weird conference. Utah, Kansas State are your they're your favorites now.
Yeah, but the thing is that it's really hard to bet against Utah. They have Cam Rising coming back, for a 5th year, essentially, and then you also have running back to Quentin Jackson. Even though he transferred to Arkansas, I think that the offense itself, will still, be clicking on full cylinders. They have a tight end who is they're going to be their number 1 target, as well as a, well-to-do running back. So I think that, Utah is going to put a lot of pressure on some Big 12 schools, especially coming from the Pac-12, where I believe they, if I'm not mistaken, they won back? Did they go back to back in the Pac-12 as far as the winning the Pac-12 last 2 years? I believe Utah did. So yeah, so they're bringing that championship pedigree over to the Big 12. They're my pick to win the conference, even though there's a lot of new teams and a lot of shakeups. I think that they're the most consistent winning pedigree team that's coming over there.
Little sidebar again. SMU, who's in the ACC, I think if SMU, Nate, was in the Big 12, I think they'd be like plus 500. They're 15-1 in the ACC, and I actually don't think that that's an awful play if you want to take a little long shot. They had a great season last year, and the ACC's wide open, as Nate talked about. Big 12 wide open as well. Nate, we love Utah at the beginning of the year. Every year we love Utah, and then they play like 3 games, and we think, never mind. We don't love Utah that much. They do always end up in the conversation, but they're not going to go undefeated. Is there an argument for Oklahoma State? I mean, Mike Gundy, that team's always competitive. It's wide open. Kansas State, Manhattan, Kansas, tough place to play. What do you think?
I mean, I think that there's an argument for some of these teams. I think that Oklahoma State will be okay. They need to get a little bit better on defense. That's been a problem for a while now. But the pedigree is always there for Oklahoma State. I mean, Mike Gundy brings it. I mean, they haven't in my adult life, I don't think they've missed a bowl game. I think they've gone to 18 straight bowl games. So I mean, Mike Gundy's always going to have the team ready. But in terms of just like who I think is the best team in the conference, I think that it's probably Utah. I mean, because Utah does it in a way that nobody else in college football does. Like Cam Rising goes out at the beginning of the season last year. They're in total disarray. They use 3 different quarterbacks, and they still win the Pac-12. They have like a revolving door running back. They just feed the hot hand. They still win. They're still great. And this year, Cam Rising is back. So he's going to be healthy. And, I think that the continuity, like he was, supposed to be a big key last year, and they still won without him. So I think that bringing him into the converse, like bringing him back and having him fully healthy, like I don't see why Utah wouldn't be like a deserving favorite here.
Dad, West Virginia is 18-1.
I bet him. Yeah, this thing, this thing. Of course, I did. We got one of the best quarterbacks. We got maybe the best quarterback in the Big 12 in Tyler Green, who's coming back. They're returning a lot of players. They had a very good season last season. This is a very good football team. They're very competitive and they're very tough at home. And so I like the Mountaineers. And this thing is wide open. The thing I love about the Big 12 football now is you take the 2 powerhouses out, Oklahoma and Texas, and any of these teams got a shot. Any of them. I mean, even Cincinnati, I think is and Arizona State probably just don't have the personnel. But Arizona, Texas Tech, I mean, Iowa State, if they could ever score, I guess they could be in it. But I think it's going to be a fun conference, and it's wide open to me. And at 18-1, look, obviously I see West Virginia every week. I know the team. In fact, we're doing a show there. We're doing a show on Wednesday, the 27th with Tyler Green. So we're doing that live just before the season starts. So I'm going to get a chance to talk to him. We'll do a special show in the evening there in Morgantown. But it's tough. I mean, UCF's going to have a good team. Kansas State's got a great defense. I think it's going to be a fun conference. You take the big 2 powerhouses out, it's wide open.
I would love for you to become one of those West Virginia radio guys who like broadcast from like a pizza parlor or whatever.
So that's what we're doing.
Give me the name of the quarterback for West Virginia just one more time.
Green. So
first name?
What?
First name?
Look, Green. Okay, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me at 66. I got a lot of stuff on my mind.
Green,
right?
Just for when you interview him, just remember it's Garrett.
I will
Green,
remember then,
Green.
just like I do when I get the politicians on. So don't do this to me at 66. Okay. His name is Mr. Green. How's that to you? But he's a returning quarterback. He's a senior.
I want to,
and I get to have him on our show. I think it's 7 to 9 p.m. at a new bar there called the Goat. See, like a Peace Bar, the Goat of Country Roads. It's going to be right in Morgantown, 7 to 9 p.m. We have a bunch of the West Virginia football players on. We're going to be broadcasting that in our West Virginia and Pittsburgh stations, and that's 7 to 9 p.m. on August 27th. Don't want to miss that.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. One last thing on the Big 12. I'll just put a bow on this. I like Arizona State under 4.5 wins, minus 160. Been a really rough couple of years after the Herm Edward years for Arizona State. He really tore up that program, and they just haven't been the same since. They have a really tough schedule this year. I mean, they got to play Kansas State, Utah, Oklahoma State, and Arizona. So most likely they can't get to 5 wins. They also have to play Mississippi State at home. So Mississippi State's traveling to Tempe early in the season, which I mean, I haven't mentioned this on the show, but I'll be moving to Tempe very soon. And I just am so angry that I can't get away from Mississippi State. Everywhere I go, they show up just like annoying me. So once again, Mississippi State here will be annoying me all the way in Arizona. So listen, that's some college football. We're going to do a little bit more as the season goes on. We're going to do a ton of college football. Can't wait to get started. Really, the season's getting started here pretty soon, but we got 5 minutes and Nate's got to give us his golf winners. So Nate, I believe you're talking about the Olympics, the golf tournament for the Olympics. I imagine that's where you feel like you find your winner.
That's really the only big one going right now.
So just to set you up here, and I'd have to get my PGA DraftKings thing going, which is going to take me a minute. Here's golf. So, all right, Olympic golf. So John Rahm currently, I think, is in the lead, but they're playing right now, so it's switching all the time. Like I said earlier, before you leave, Darian, thanks so much for coming on. Just tell everybody once again where they can find you on Twitter.
Yes, you can find me at DK Sports 410 and also follow the Jersey Sports Network on Instagram as well.
Shout out to Darian. We'll hope to have him back here pretty soon. Talk some college football. Thanks, Darian.
Thank you.
All right. So, like I said, Hojgaard 9 under today. You know, Shoffley's right there. John Rahm's in first. I've got my odds on DK on DraftKings are Shoffley plus 130, Rahm plus 260, Fleetwood plus 450, Scheffler plus 900. Then we get into the 14 to 1s and counting. Okay, Nate. Going for 5 in a row, baby. Who's your pick?
Going for 5 in a row. My heart says Tom Kim at 30 to 1. That's what my heart says. My head says maybe Rory at 14 to 1. But I can't justify taking anybody towards the top of the leaderboard right now. I mean, when I'm looking at Rory, I'm looking at a guy who's not putted very well this tournament. He's hit the heck out of the ball with his irons, which is important at Le National. And he's only 4 strokes back. I feel like if there's a guy that's going to make a run on Sunday, it's probably Rory. You know, this is just kind of what he does. He's not an awesome front runner, but he's really good when it feels like it's kind of out of reach for him. He's obviously on the cusp of it. So I like Rory at 14 to 1. I like Tom Kim, who just made a birdie to move to -10. He's 4 strokes back at 30 to 1. So those are my two sort of. If you're
I just made those 2 bets,
There we
14 to 1 and 30 to 1. Nate's going for 5 in a row. I've never seen anything like this in my life. I mean, you can go years without picking a golf winner, and Nate's picked 4 in a row, all of them at 10 to 1 or better. So the first thing I did, I bet this guy Kim at 30 to 1. I have no idea who he is. Now that I figured out how to do this, then I bet, who's this guy?
Rory
McIlroy?
Yeah.
He just went, I bet him at 14. He's now 16 to 1. So I missed out on that. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just tough. Like, I mean, because you just like, I mean, where's the value on, you know, Shoffley and Rahm are both sort of, you know, juggling the lead right now. They keep kind of bouncing back and forth, but I can't justify anybody in a golf tournament that's this loaded. It's so hard to justify.
What do you think of Scotty Scheffler 12 to 1?
I don't hate it. But I don't love it. I mean, the problem with Scotty is that if he doesn't putt well the first couple of days of a golf tournament, he usually doesn't just find it. It's usually something that he starts off putting well, and you're like, okay, here we go with Scotty, or he just doesn't have the putter, and he just looks lost on the greens. I just don't look at Scotty and think he's confident right now about his ability to close out a golf tournament.
He struggles in Europe. I mean, that's just the facts. Like, I mean, the guy crushes everything in America, and he gets over to Europe and he struggles a little bit more. Look, Shoffley and Rahm, there's just no value at plus 175 and plus 180. I mean, what are you doing? Like, and then Fleetwood at plus 450. The problem with Fleetwood is he can't close. He never wins a tournament. In a tournament like this, you're going to have some real closers. So, I mean, I'm with you. You know, I think Tom Kim at 30 to 1 is kind of a fun little game. I don't know. Abear at 45 to 1. I mean, he can come out of nowhere and have a good day.
And I mean, low scores are out there. I mean, Højgaard shoots 9 under today. He shoots 62. So I mean, there's scores out there for these guys. So I mean, if you're, I don't think there's a problem like looking down the leaderboard a little bit at guys like Kim and Rory, because they're seeing that 63 as well, or 62, and thinking like, I can do that tomorrow.
Absolutely.
I mean, those aren't guys that are afraid to go low.
So look, Nate's on fire. Everybody listening, take Rory 16-1, take Tom Kim 30-1. Have a lot of fun with golf. Thanks for listening to the show this week. Been a lot of fun. We're going to be back here next week. I won't be on the show next week. Nate will be on the Helmsy up. I'm not gonna, I got to move. So I won't be on the show, but Nate will. And Dad, of course, will be here as well. We'll see you next week. Should be a lot of fun. Have fun with the Olympics. Have fun with baseball. You're with golfing with Jay Delsing. That'll be next. So have a great weekend, and we will
have a
see you
great
next week.
weekend, and let's go, Nate. Let's go, baby.